we can on my end. But anyway, I just wanted to welcome everybody to 2021 and furthermore, wish everybody a happy new year, and let's get started on our first regular council meeting for 2021. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order for Tuesday, January 21st at 7 o'clock. First of all, go to approval of the agenda. The recommendation would read. Ms. Elrick?
Sorry. The recommendation is that the agenda be approved as amended to include item 9C, subdivision and development control bylaw, which was distributed via addendum.
Good. With that, could I get someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Any further discussion? See none. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We now open up to public input. Public is permitted to provide comments to council on any item shown on this meeting agenda. A 2-minute time limit applies to speakers. Is there anybody? I'm sorry, I can't see anything on here. So is there any public input?
Mayor McEwen, I can monitor the participants.
Okay.
I don't currently see any hands raised. I don't see any messages in the chat function. If there is anybody who does have public input, you're welcome to just come off your microphone at this point.
Nope.
And I don't see any.
Okay, move on to delegations. We have BC Hydro update, Coquitlam Bunsen Diversion Tunnel Gauge Project, a presentation by Grace Chan, Stakeholder Engagement Advisor, Capital Project Communications, and Mark Nickel, Project Manager regarding Coquitlam Bunsen Diversion Tunnel Gauge Project update. Welcome and thank you, and the floor is yours.
And please feel free if you like to turn your video on as well. Great, thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to share our screen, my screen here.
You may not be able to share your screen without being the host.
Okay.
I can likely make you the host temporarily.
Okay, that'd be great.
Purposes.
Perfect. Okay, Grace, you're the host now, so you should be able to share that.
Great.
Here we go.
There we go. Can you see the screen? Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for having us. I am actually going to turn it over to Mark Nickel to do the presentation. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay. So, Mayor McEwen and Council, thank you for this opportunity to have this dialogue. We are giving you an update on the Coquitlam Bunsen Diversion Tunnel Gates project. And next slide, please, Grace. We're going to touch on the Bunsen Power System overview, the project overview, the new gate arrangement, the progress so far, Bunsen Lake considerations, fisheries considerations, a new salmon hatchery, which we're very proud to announce that we're putting in, the schedule, and any questions. Grace? So the Coquitlam Bunsen Power System, and I apologize for those of you that know this very well, but we like to present the whole system because it is kind of all interrelated. But the Coquitlam Reservoir is a large watershed, and most of the water that actually comes in this watershed normally goes through the Coquitlam Bunsen Diversion Tunnel, which I'm showing on my pointer here, and it goes through there. It goes to Lake Bunsen, and from Lake Bunsen it goes through Penstocks to Bunsen Dam and into the Indian Arm. So that's the normal way we move the water. Small amounts of water go through the low-level outlet from the Coquitlam Dam, which is at the southern end of Coquitlam Lake, and that usually is involved in fish water release, small amounts of water. Of course, Metro Vancouver takes it's approximately 13% of the inflows for its uses, which are critical to safety and for public use. And also there are at times, if we have a very, very heavy storm inflow, these coastal reservoirs in British Columbia they're very steep and they rise very rapidly. And there are times we need to spill, so we will use both the tunnel and the low-level outlet to manage the reservoir. Next slide. For the project, we need to have an outage of the tunnel. So the red circle that we're showing on the left, this is just a different view of the system. We have the new dam, the old dam. We have the low-level outlets that release water from the dam in the Coquitlam River. Then we have the intake portal, which is the part of the project, or the older part of the project. And then we have the more focused part of the project, which is actually replacing the gates in this transfer tunnel. So you see that in the red circle. And in order to accomplish this work, in winter, we need to have a drawdown. Winter, we get a lot of water, we get a lot of inflows. So we need a 143 approximately, that's our ideal target, but we're getting close to that right now. And then we can have an outage of the tunnel. And then at that point, the water has to go through the low-level outlets and has to go down the river to maintain the reservoir elevations. Next slide. The new gate arrangement. So this is arrangements we came up with to kind of make the outage possible, make everything work. We have the old maintenance gate, which is in the front. This is from approximately 1911. And then we decided to put the new maintenance gate behind that. So it's going to be built in the dry. It's going to be built by traditional methods, which is a much safer, much more quality controlled method of building than trying to build something underwater. And then once we have the new maintenance gate, we're going to have a third outage to replace the operating gates in their original location. Next slide. The progress so far, we've done a lot of quite a bit of First Nations consultation. We have support. We've done quite a bit of consultation with key stakeholders, various municipalities, including Metro Vancouver. The construction funding is fully approved. We have a contract with Hewitt, which is Peter Hewitt and Sons. They're a very high-level contractor. I'm extremely impressed by their professionalism and their capabilities. We're very, very lucky to have these guys on board. They're an extremely competent contractor on these kind of challenging projects. The final design is probably 90% completed. We have 3 outages to build the thing, but for the first outage is 100%, but we're also, working on the final design as well. We've had some delays. We found that the area above our entrance adit, which is an adit is kind of a tunnel into the side of a mountain, there's a massive cliff above there, and we didn't realize, but there was a lot of safety issues by rockfall, so we've had to deal with that. It's caused us a few delays, but I think we're still okay. We've done a lot of rock scaling. We've done a lot of lead paint removal, and the reservoir drawdown to a target elevation of 143 was achieved in late 2020. And then unfortunately, we had this, I'm sure you guys noticed, we've had this extreme kind of heavy rainfall from about New Year's Day through to now, and we've actually gone back up again. So we're a little higher than we'd like to be, but we have actually delayed the outage a little bit, about a week, to make sure that we can still pull it off, and we think we're okay. So the first outage actually started on January the 11th of 2021, the first tunnel outage. On the left, you can see a photograph of the first tunnel gate, and okay, that was installed in 1911. And okay, so going to Bunsen Lake, we have a tunnel shut down during each 2-month outage, so there'll be no water transfer from Coquitlam to Bunsen, only natural local inflows from rainfall. Water levels will be monitored. However, we don't anticipate any concerns during winter outages. We think we'll be pretty much on the regular water levels at Bunsen. We don't see any reasons why we shouldn't be. The local inflows will compensate for the lack of the tunnel inflows. We'll also be shutting down LB1 to keep the balance of Bunsen Lake. We have a public safety plan, which is more targeted to the lower levels of the Coquitlam River. We've put up signage. We've done quite a few media alerts. So we have put quite a bit of effort into that. And in the winter, most of the flows in the rivers are actually from the river itself. But we're being extra cautious. When we put out quite a bit of safety announcements. In the summer, we expect a little more risk because people don't expect high flows, but we're not there yet. We'll be announcing our requirements once we get there. So we've messaged through quite a bit of forums, quite a bit of public announcements, and I'm very confident that we've got the word out there. Grace? Fisheries considerations. We're talking about Lower Coquitlam River now. So in the summer, which is really the peak period that we could have fisheries impacts, we've kind of calculated the maximum fisheries flows that we feel were tolerable without having, serious impacts on fisheries. And if we exceed those, we will recall the outage. We will basically recall the tunnel. We've given our contractor very strict requirements, and they are required to recall the tunnel within 8 hours. If we have a problem with fisheries, if we have a problem with flooding, or if we have any kind of problem, the contractor must recall the tunnel. We have a variance with the water license order. This allows us to spill additional water through the low-level outlets into the Coquitlam River. And of course, this is hoping for us to avoid a recall because we don't want that to happen. But if it does happen, we're prepared for it. We have a drawdown to elevation water 43 meters for winter outages, and that gives us room to absorb any inflows, such as we're getting this week from these atmospheric rivers. We can't do that in the summer because Metro Vancouver needs those waters, so our elevation in the summer is limited to about 150, elevation 150. Slide. New scope in the project, we have a sockeye salmon experimental hatchery. BC Hydro has voluntarily agreed to put in a sockeye experimental hatchery. We're going to produce at least 25,000 smolts a year, starting with 10,000 smolts in 2021. And this is going to be a 10-year project, and it's going to be rolled out in 2020, 2021. And this is something we're quite excited about. We have a partnership with Coquitlam, and we're looking forward to achieving this asset improvement. Slide. Project schedule. We got our funding approval back in August of 2020. We awarded a contract in September of 2020. Contract immobilized in October of 2020. Our first outage is in January and February, and basically we're building a concrete wall on the ground. This is the one I described earlier where it was in between the two gates, so it's in the dry area. That's going to be January, February. So we're keeping our outages quite limited to 2 months because we really want to limit the amount of environmental impact. We're very conscious of that. And then our second outage will be in the summer of 2021. And then our third outage will be again in the winter of 2022. So the first outage, as I mentioned, has just begun on the 11th, or actually it's pretty much begun today. And then we're releasing, of course, water through the low-level outlet from the dam into the Lower Coquitlam River to compensate for the fact that the tunnel is closed. So that is basically going on right now. Slide. Any questions?
Well, thank you. I guess best to put this control of the Zoom platform back over to our CIO, Ms. Halliwell. I just wanted to thank you again for making the presentation. I tell you that I've been, following some of the social media feeds on this project, and it is a very exciting project, and it needs to be done. It's quite an engineering marvel because I'm fortunate to was sitting on the water committee at Metro Vancouver, and it is quite a complex, and and the peril of putting these people down into these shafts to get it is quite something. But I just wanted to remind you, and it's been a bit of a frustration on me, is this will have a pretty significant effect on the village of Anmore and the people coming here. So if you could please make sure to include us in that we're mentioned in these social media things to alert people, because we're getting, even this past Saturday, which I'm going to talk to later on in our council meeting, we had a capacity issue already at Bunsen Lake. As you're probably not aware, because you're in the power generation water supply, Bunsen Lake is a pretty pretty sought after place in the summer, and it's certainly the level of the lake will have certain impacts on that. So please keep us involved. Add our names to all the social media so that people do understand that it's not just an impact in Coquitlam and Port Coquitlam, but there will be a significant impact on Anmore, and to check your website as to what that effect may be for people coming here. So I'll just open up for any other questions from council. Not seeing any. Well, thank you very much then for coming and presentation. And like I said, please keep us involved, and we can certainly make sure that it's posted on our social media thing of the work that's going on and possible changes to the water elevations.
Well, thank you, Mayor McEwen. We'll absolutely keep you guys in the loop. We're not expecting any unusual elevation changes outside of the normal levels, but we will absolutely keep you in the loop and give you the opportunity to inform your ratepayers and your stakeholders.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll now move on to adoption of the minutes. Minutes of the regular council meeting held on December 15th, 2020. The recommendation would read
that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on December 15th, 2020 be adopted as circulated.
Someone to move those minutes? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? See none. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Is there any business arising from those minutes? Nope. We don't have anything on the consent agenda. We're now on to item 9, legislative reports. 9A, 2175 East Road rezoning application. Report dated January 7th, 2021 from Eric White is here. So we're going to refer to Mr. White. Mr. Laidler, did you want to make a comment? Can you turn your microphone on?
Yeah, I've got to recuse myself.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll let you know. We'll put you in the waiting room. There's lots of coffee and tea and biscuits, I'm sure, on your own waiting room. And I'll now refer it over to Eric White, our associate planner.
Thank you, Your Worship. I believe the report is fairly self-explanatory. If council would like, I can quickly present this application.
If you could just give a quick overview. I think what the ask is that it gets referred over to the APC for further discussion and analysis. But if you could just give us a quick overview.
Thank you, Your Worship. Staff received this application on December 7th, 2020. The applicant is pursuing a rezoning from RS1 to RS1A to allow for further subdivision of the parcel at 2175 East Road. Staff recommends that council refer this application to the Advisory Planning Committee, in particular, in consideration of the minimum parcel size of 1/3 acre, which as the RS1A zoning regulations read, is allowable in compelling circumstances.
Good. Okay. So the recommendation would read.
Recommendation is that council refer the rezoning application for 2175 East Road to the Advisory Planning Commission for review and report back to council.
Could I get someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Now I'll open up for discussion from council. Would anybody on council like to make some comments? Councilor Weberink.
Yeah, just a couple things. Are there any environmental concerns through the chair to Eric White? It's not adjacent to a creek or anything like that? The property, either of the properties?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Is the property adjacent to a creek? I'm not too familiar with the property. I've never been to Mr. Laidner's house, but I know he's near a creek. I don't know if that's the property that touches it. So in other words,
on the topographic plan that's been submitted, there's no creek obstruction on the property.
Okay. And then I guess the other question I have is, once again, I'm not familiar, is that part of East Road kind of rises, and I think the driveway comes in on where this new lot is going to be carved off. Is there a plan for 2 driveways, and how would that work coming off of East Road? Has that been considered?
There has not been a plan for the newly created lot submitted. However, I discussed with the applicant their intentions for both driveways, and their intention is to have driveway access for both lots, essentially where the existing driveway is now.
Oh, I see. So it'd be like an easement over the one lot to the second lot.
Yes.
Okay, okay. I think, is there, seem to remember, let me try and find it here. So the extenuating circumstances to justify the 3rd acre is saving trees. Is there a tree plan, or are we not that far along yet? Am I remembering that?
A topographic and tree survey was submitted with the application. The compelling circumstances then for this particular lot alignment is that no additional trees will need to be removed.
Okay. Okay, those are my only questions.
Thank you.
Councillor Trowbridge.
Yeah, I just, it's more of a sort of a procedural fairness to the applicant. And this applies to, I have more to say on this, Mr. Mayor, actually, but I'll just, for the purposes of this one, when it goes to the committee, I think it would be advisable to make sure that the applicant understands that in this case, the setbacks, FARs, site coverage, et cetera, are all still RS1 related. And, you know, when I look at that 3rd acre based on the drawing, that's roughly 14,000 square feet. That would restrict the entire house size to around 3,600 square feet. I have no problem with that. That's fine, but I just want to make sure the applicant's not planning to build a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot house on the 3rd acre with an RS1 zone. I know, you know, on the next application, it's talking about the CD2, which has a different FAR of 0.2, but in this case, you know, they're still bound by the RS1 rules. And I'm not sure we as a village have, you know, I would assert that we should create a checklist so that, because we tried to create this whole thing for the benefit of applicants, that they don't get a long way down the road, spend a bunch of money, and then realize they can't build their dream home. That's what I'm getting at. And that's something we should talk about after.
Well, Councillor Trowbridge, you bring up some interesting points, because I've received a few phone calls from different designers and architects expressing some of the challenges by meeting some of these things. And I'm wondering if it may be wise to get a report from our building inspector as to what currently is in place, and maybe some recommendations that he could bring forward at some point forward with a checklist like you're talking about, so that people know what they're getting into before they get too far into this in regards to what they're able to do according to the building code and the building setbacks. Ms. Halliwell.
Thank you. Yes, we do currently have a list of sort of frequently asked questions that that will help guide applicants in their application and process. And right now, the building inspector is reviewing that with an eye to include some additional information that he feels would be pertinent based on some of the issues that he's been seeing. And further to that, we're certainly looking at making proposals in 2021 to make some adjustments to the zoning bylaw now that it's been implemented for the last few years, to address some of the issues that that have been raised as a result of some of the language that's in the zoning bylaw.
Yeah, it's great. I just wonder if it would maybe be prudent for him to, if possible, to prepare a report before this goes to the APC, to have a wholesome discussion as to what the challenges are, if there is any at all, but to really have a good understanding of what constraints are on it, and get his opinion on some of this. I think it's imperative. Like I said, I had an architect consult me with another infill, and he was really expressing a lot of challenge. I suggested that he come to council, but there was some time constraints about that. So again, I think that it's, sometimes when these applications come forward, they need to be very well vetted and sort of understood through the actual practicum of how they're going to lay out. So is that possible that we could get him just to expedite some sort of a report on it?
Well, what we could do, Mayor McEwen, is have him provide comments when this report comes back following the APC review. So right now, council is simply referring it over to the APC. The next step after that would be to bring a report back from our planning consultant, which would include the comments from the APC meeting for first readings of a bylaw for council's consideration. I think that would be an appropriate time for Mr. Gregg's comments in relation to impacts that a building on that new lot would have.
Councillor Trowbridge.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with Julie. I agree with the CAO. I've made the comment to Eric just to remind the applicant about house size, make sure they're not tripped up. So I think that's enough in terms of sort of an advanced notification. And I think after it comes back from the APC, rather than holding up that process, and I speak from experience, the goalposts for whatever reason with people handing off files and so on, not only moved for me, I chased them all over the field for a year. And I just don't want someone to have to go through that. And I think keeping the process going and having the APC meeting doesn't preclude anything from coming back to us in a report. So in the proponent's interest, I would say that Julie's got it right in the order.
Good, good. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question then for referral to the APC. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. If we could invite Mr. Lader out of the waiting room back into the meeting.
He should be with us momentarily.
Mr. Lader, I see you again.
Put your headset.
Need to put your headset back on.
Just audio.
There you go. Can you hear me all right, Mr. Lader, Councillor? Okay, well, your mic is off though.
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. We'll now move on to 9B 112 Deerview Lane rezoning, a report dated January 7th, 2021 from Eric White. I just wanted to make a few comments on this beforehand. This couple came and met with me. I was very impressed and pleased at how forthright they were. They want to just basically take a hallway in their house and then enclose it into a bedroom for their child. I think it's well written. They wrote a really good summation of what they wanted to do in the regular council meeting. I was quite taken back by the fact that they wanted to do this in the legislative proper way rather than just simply closing in a room. And I suggested that they get as much support as they can from the neighbors. And from reading through here, it looks like they got all the support from all the neighbors. There's going to be nothing on the exterior of the house that's going to really change a lot. But anyway, I'm going to pass it over to Eric White.
Thank you, Your Worship. Staff received this application on December 8th, 2020. Prior to the formal submission of this application, through conversations with the applicant and with staff, I recommended the applicant submit an incomplete application that omits requirements E through G. This decision was made considering the minimal impact that this renovation and rezoning will have on the neighborhood, also in light of the letters of support from the neighbors. The applicant wishes to increase the buildable FAR of their home from 0.2 to 0.22 to allow for an additional bedroom on the second floor. This renovation will include no further plumbing or kitchen requirements and will have no effect on the septic system or street parking. Staff recommends that council refer this application to the Advisory Planning Commission for review and report.
Good. Can I get someone to move that recommendation? Moved, seconded. I'll open up for any further discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Wade.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to 9C, which was
Mayor
the...
McEwen, my
Yes.
apologies for interjecting. It looks as, oh, there he is. I just wanted to confirm that Councillor Trowbridge was still with us. It looked like his video was frozen for a moment, but it
Oh.
looks like you are there. Thank you.
But I'm back now. I've got it now.
Good. Okay, we're now moving on to the 9C Subdivision and Development Control Bylaw. And this is going to be referred to by Ms. Elric.
Thank you. So this was before council at the December 15th meeting, and there was one amendment requested by council. So this is before council, and the recommendation would be that council grant third reading as amended under item 4.1 M II as attached to the agenda to Anmore Subdivision and Development Control Bylaw number 633/2020.
Can I get someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Now open up for any questions from council. We've already discussed this quite extensively. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Elric. We'll now move on to new business items from committees. No. Mayor's report. I just have about 4 things that I just want to quickly go through. Number 1 is, I tell you, I get this from my business that I own in Port Coquitlam, and I'll tell you, they do a great job of their budget and questionnaire on the back. I'm going to pass this over to bring this to our next finance committee meeting. I'm hoping we can kind of really get even more engagement in the budget process in regards to us moving forward. And they talk about different ways of where the money is going and what's proposed for 2021. So great document. Port Coquitlam does a great job in regards to their budget. I wanted to also mention this past Saturday, I got a notification from Bunsen Lake that the park was at capacity. Wow. First weekend in January. What are we in for? But we need to realize, and I know that staff is working diligently in regards to a DECL program. We learned a lot of things, and we're going to be working in conjunction with BC Hydro to make this year as smoothly as possible with the least amount of impact and that on the village, and we will continue to work hard on that. And it's great that people are coming to such a lovely and incredible park. Park usage as a whole through our regional parks. Record before was about 11.6 million. This last year, we're hit 16.5 million, about a 50% increase through all the regional parks. It truly is amazing that people are getting out and they're taking advantage of our natural setting and also refreshing for their mental health, which we're finding out more and more is such a key component of our natural green spaces. I received a call today from Nancy Knauer regarding the garden club. They have missed this year's grant request, and she wanted to talk to me a little bit about last year's grant request. They received a grant request for about $500, and unfortunately during COVID, they had to spend about $250 of that on a Zoom platform so that they could actually have their meeting. So they haven't spent the whole thing. However, she wanted to make sure to see if council would be open to allowing them a late entry into this. The garden club, they do such amazing work in our village, and I think they're going to be instrumental once we start with the village hub in regards to how integrating gardens around the village hub. And she's really excited about that, and they want to get people in and be able to have these Zoom meetings and keep the connection going. So I will probably put forth a little resolution at the end of my mayor's report in regards to that if we can allow them to make another application, whether it be late in that for that due to the circumstances. It's been great seeing so many people out using the new pathways, and covered bus stops are on the way. We're just waiting for them. There's 2 of them that are going to be installed, and I can tell you that the paths I'm hearing people are just loving them. You know, not having to be able to trip over roots, and that allowing young kids to be able to push a stroller, allowing young kids to be able to bike along with them, and that. So great work with the public works and all our planning, and that it's really turned out well. So Ms. Halliwell, how would we go about with this, with the application for the garden club? Is a resolution appropriate, or?
I don't believe that we would require a resolution at this time, Mayor McEwen. While we do have an application deadline to consider a grouping of applications once per year, council can consider community grant requests at any point during the year. And certainly given we haven't considered the applications at this point for this year, if they submit one, we could likely group them in with that.
Okay. I'll reach out then to Ms. Knauer and tell her to put one forward, and that as they've done in the previous years. Okay, thank you. That's all I have for my mayor's report. I'll move now on to the councilor's reports. Anybody? Mr. Laidler, Councillor Laidler.
We had the first meeting of the safety committee. It really was just an introduction of who's who on the council and how we're going to move forward. I'd like to compliment Ms. Elric and bringing the meeting together and helping me to run it, and also the fact that she's organized the RCMP to speak at the next meeting.
Good, thank you. Councillor Cryer.
I have a brief update, a couple of things. Just before Christmas, I sat in on a meeting with Minister of Child Care, Christina Chen, as part of my role as the representative from the village on the Child Care Task Group. It was a good conversation, updated us on a variety of things going on. There's talk of moving childcare under the Ministry of Education. We spoke of the School Act, and also some more conversation on the cooperation between provincial and federal government. There was a very lengthy Q&A. And if anyone is interested in that, I do have the readout with all of the details of the meeting. They can email me directly or to the village hall, and I can get that sent out. Also, today I sat in on the town hall with the Chamber of Commerce with Aaron O'Toole, the leader of the official opposition party. It was very interesting. That entire webinar is available on the Chamber of Commerce Facebook page as well as on their website, but he spoke quite lengthy at the challenges facing Canadians in the coming year, just general challenges as well as those brought on by the pandemic. Q&A was very interesting, and also spoke of the things that distinguish the Conservative Party from the current party. So it was quite an interesting webinar. I would encourage anyone to take a listen if they get a chance. And that is all. Thank you.
Any other council reports? Councillor Weber.
Yeah, I just wanted to wish everyone a happy new year, and I wanted to thank everybody that participated in Candy Cane Lane. You know, Christmas was very different for my family this year, as it was for everybody's family. My son and my daughter-in-law, we couldn't celebrate with them. We couldn't have our extended family over for dinner. Hopefully this is the only year we're going to have to do that. But it was sure nice going out on Christmas evening and just going for a walk and looking at those Christmas lights. It really sort of made the day. So I want to thank you to everyone on Ravenswood who participated in that. That's all I have.
Yeah, I want to echo that as well. I walked up there probably 5 times just back and forth, and it was interesting seeing so many people walking and taking it in, and people driving and being very respectful and driving very slowly. Great, and to the organizers, you know, unfortunately we couldn't be that involved with it, but great job by all the residents and providing a little bit of a Christmas cheer and during these troubling times. I just wanted to also add, I forgot to mention, this Thursday I have a Zoom call one-on-one with MP Ron McKinnon, and it's just solely about the Village Hub and the financing and the ask for the grant. So I will be able to keep everybody updated on that. I'm very fortunate. I've got a really good rapport with Ron, and that's why I'm reaching out to him. Our local MP, Nellie Shin, has already written in a letter of support. So this is just to kind of see if we can get both of them on the same page. So I will move on now to our Chief Administrative Officer's report.
Great, thank you, Mayor McEwen. Just a couple of updates. With the extension of the current public health orders to February the 5th, the Village Hall will remain closed to the public except by appointment until that date, and I'll continue to monitor as changes are made to the public health orders. Appointments can be made by emailing village.hall@anmore.com. I wanted to mention that we have scheduled a Finance Committee meeting for February the 1st, which we'll be conducting on the Zoom platform, and it will be open to the public, similar to these regular council meetings. And the topic of discussion will be the 2021 budget, including items, projects that are going to be recommended by staff in relation to the COVID funding that was received in 2020 of $882,000. The Clean BC application was submitted by the deadline this past Sunday. So council had given that direction late last year. And this is for the Anmore Community Hub in relation to the use of mass timber and building innovation. They are expecting to make their awards by mid-February to the end of, or the beginning of March. So we'll be keeping our eyes open for a response there. And Mr. Boyd, our engineering consultant, and I have been working hard contacting various interested parties in relation to the pedestrian bridge crossing Mossam Creek and the grant application that we're preparing based on council's direction for that. So the application deadline, as a reminder, is January the 27th. Currently, I'm expecting letters of support from Mossam Creek Hatchery, the Metro Vancouver, as well as the Tri-Cities Off-Road Cycling Association, the local mountain biking association as well. We've submitted a request for the city of Port Moody to provide a grant or a letter of support for a grant application as well. And we're also reaching out to the neighboring property owners to bring them up to speed and to let them know specifically about the project as well. So that will be ongoing. I just wanted to make a comment how pleased I was, particularly for our public works staff over the holidays there. There was little to no snow to speak of, so they enjoyed a rest, as they don't typically over the holiday season. So a big thank you to them. They also will be looking to install the speed reader boards that were arranged for by the Anmore Elementary School PAC. The village provided a grant towards that last year, and they have finally received the actual speed reader boards and are coordinating with Public Works to get those installed as soon as possible. And that's it.
Good. Thank you very much. Lots going on, and great start to the year. We've got some general correspondence, communications dated December 3rd from Metro Vancouver regarding amending the Metro Vancouver 2040 Shaping Our Future. We have communications dated December 11th from School District 43 regarding their directions of 2025 strategic goals and objectives. Communications from Metro Vancouver dated December 16th regarding their policy review about the regional growth strategy. And some communication dated December 17th from Metro Vancouver regarding regional greenways 2050. I'll now open up to public question period.
So again, as a reminder for those who are on the call, I'll come back to you in just a moment, Ms. Elric, on the written submission. But if there is anybody who is on our Zoom call today that would like to ask a question, you can either use the raise your hand function, the chat function, or simply unmute your microphone and make it known that you'd like to ask a question. Otherwise, I will turn it over to Ms. Elric, who has a written submission for public question period. Go ahead, Ms. Elric.
Thank you. So I do have one written submission for a question from Lynn Burton. And I'll just read it out. In 2008, a previous Anmore council sought approval from residents for the Anmore Daycare Facility / Community Center Loan Authorization Bylaw for borrowing $1.263 million through referendum. Anmore referendum voters rejected this request by a 2-to-1 margin. Wondering if this voter approval was still required for the spending on the proposed village hub, I called Andrew Johnston at the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing to determine the current requirements. He informed me that voter approval for loan authorization is still necessary, either through referendum or an alternative approval process. It is my understanding that the current council is proposing to borrow $2.5 million, with an additional $2.5 million if grant applications are unsuccessful. Since council has indicated that it is not planning to go to referendum for the loan authorization, could you please indicate your plans to seek community approval for the borrowing of such large amounts?
Good question. There's some inconsistencies in that, in the question of that I'm very well aware of. Yes, all municipalities have a borrowing cap, so they don't get into trouble. We currently don't have any money borrowed whatsoever, and I believe, I'm just going to refer to Ms. Halliwell, our borrowing cap currently sits at about 3 million.
It's between 3.5 and 4 million right now, based on our revenues.
And it's based on your tax revenue. So at $2 million, we are not near the current cap. And really, this was brought forward, the borrowing, in regards to a lot of comments from residents regarding, the existing residents paying for an asset that is going to be used many years into the future, and how we could make sure that those future residents covered some of the costs. So at our finance committee, we had a pretty in-depth discussion, and with interest rates through our borrowing capacity through the Municipal Finance Authority, we can almost get I think it's like 1.5% is what our borrowing rate is. So it was decided from the finance committee, and then furthermore from council, that we would borrow some of this to appease those concerns from some residents. I can tell you that in 2008, the whole cost of the project was based on its development through borrowing, and that's why it didn't progress. They had to go to the electorate. We don't have to do that. Even if these grants don't come forward, or they're limited, we have the cash in reserve to be able to offset that. And that was part of what happened when I first got on council in 2008, is that we initially started to get a financial plan in place and develop a strategy. And the two things from our council at the time were the redevelopment of Sunnyside Road, because East Road had already been done, and a village center. And as you can tell, and I get lots of accolades on it, Sunnyside Road is in great condition and people are really enjoying it. And so now the next phase is the community hub, and we are really excited about it. And I do think that we're going to be able to secure some grant funding for that as well. But if in a worst case scenario, we do have the funding easily in place to pay for it, so we won't have to go to a referendum. Any other questions or any other comments from council regarding that question, or no? Okay, well, I see nothing more than move to adjourn. Moved, seconded. Any discussion? See none. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and participating in this new era, and Happy New Year.